welcome to another session on event handling in React. So up till now, in some of the previous sessions, we have already used this concept at a very beginning stage unknowingly, and in this particular one, we'll actually see what that is. So whenever you are creating the app and whatever the user is seeing and whatever the user is interacting with your application, based on these things, we sometimes want to render our React components, or we want to make some changes to our UI. So in this session, we'll see how we can do it and what all possibilities are there, what all what all conditions are there over which we can bend these components of ours in order to achieve the desired result. So let's head over to our code sandbox. If you look here, it is a very minimal one in which we have an index.js file, an app.jsx, and we have some styling applied to whatever is being displayed here via styles.css. Okay, so in this, what we hope to achieve is that if I try to bring my mouse cursor over the submit button, it should change its color to purple. All right, and if I remove this cursor from there, it regains its original white color. So every time I bring my mouse cursor here and there, this particular button is changing color. So this is a very minimal version of this sort of event handling that goes on at a very larger scale on these popular websites, on these popular applications, as you might have seen. In fact, this particular phenomena is observable in almost every website where login system is there. All right, whenever you take your cursor over the submit button or the login button, even sometimes this text tends to change in such cases. Okay, so if we head over to our app.jsx in this provided sandbox, we'll be able to see that everything we have right here is pretty much hard coded, and we don't have any other functionality applied to it. Okay, so first of all, let's fork out our copy of this sandbox, and then we know that if up till now, let's say one thing that we have been doing in almost every possible scenarios in the previous sessions is the use of onClick function. So what we basically did with this onClick function is using this, and always remember, since we are writing this inside this JSX, so the convention will be used will be the camel case one. So using this onClick equals to these braces, and inside these braces we used to mention a function that gets triggered whenever this particular element, in this case it is a button, so whenever this button is clicked. Okay, so for that purpose, let's create a function and we are going to call our function handle click, and for now let's just log something onto the console. Let's say we log click, and then we'll just copy the name of this function. Always remember that while you are copying functions in order to have them executed based on some particular condition, or sending your functions from here to there, you just have to copy the name of the function, because if you include these two braces as well, that means this particular function of yours will get called. Okay, so now if you see, every time we click this button of ours, let's save this, and every time we click this button and we head over to console, click will appear. All right, and if we keep clicking this, so it is getting clubbed. As you can see, 9 times this click has appeared, and if we click it 3 more times, 12 times it has appeared. So this onClick functionality is working perfectly. That was simply just checking that our onClick function is working as of now or not. And when is onClick function or this onClick functionality being executed? It is executed as soon as this particular button is clicked, or on the event of the click of the button. Okay, I repeat, on the event of the click of the button, this particular onClick is getting executed, and it is triggering this particular function, which will perform whatever operations are mentioned inside it. So for example, let's say instead of just console logging something, we want to make change to this structure of ours. And as of now, what can we do? Let's say we wanted to change this hello to something else. If I click on this button, so how can we do that? So we know that since we are changing something on the go, and we are inherently changing the state of something, we are updating something and we want to re-render it. We do not want to explicitly re-render it. We want that particular let's say this header, for example, in this particular case, we want it to update as soon as a particular condition is met. So that means seeing this particular condition, we get the hint that it has something to do the state, because the state of that particular variable is changing. So initially what we'll do is, as we've seen, we'll create a header variable and then we'll mention a function, and then we'll use this useState function like this. And you see, like, let's say initially we mark this as hello, and as soon as you click save, okay, I think without this, if we hit save, it should have included it automatically. Anyways, no problem, let's just include it explicitly by ourselves. For that, we'll just type comma useState, importing this particular useState from React modules as a non-default one, and then we'll create a constant header which has a state, and that particular state can be updated or set by this setHeader function. And initially we want this header variable of ours to contain hello. Now instead of hello here, we are going to mention header here, and then if we hit refresh, you will be able to see that the structure of our website, we will not be able to see any difference in this except the capitalization of H. Okay, now let's say what we wanted was, we wanted to change this particular text as soon as someone clicks this button. So it is very easy, since we have already created the environment for a particular function to get called as soon as we have a click. So what we need to do is, we just need to update this state of ours by using the function of setHeader, and we want to update this header, which initially consisted hello, to, let's say, bye. And as soon as we hit save, and now in here, if I click this particular button, you can see the header of mine is now changed to bye or whatever. Let's say in here, if I typed anything else like this and click save, I refresh this. So since it is loading initially, it is loading from the very start, so the initial state of this variable will be hello. And then as soon as this particular button is clicked, this onClick function will work, this handleClick function will get triggered, and then by the use of this setHeader function, we'll be able to update this particular variable to this. So up till now, we have just basically revised whatever we've seen previously, and we saw that up till now we have been unconsciously dealing with one event, and that event was the click of this button, and via that event we were making some modifications to our components or to our code. Now the question arises, are there any other events other than clicking of a button? So in order to just see whether they are or not, let me close this. You can just head over to Google and search for HTML event attributes, and in here I have a GFG article based on that. And if you look at these, we have plenty of them. As you can see, even they are further divided into several subcategories like window event attributes, form event attributes, keyboard, mouse, and whatnot. So the initial thing that we saw was something that had to deal with the mouse cursor of ours. All right, we wanted to drag this cursor over this button, and we wanted to change something in this regarding the properties of this button based on our cursor moving over this. Okay, and now if you see under the mouse events one, you will be able to see a attribute called on mouse over. And if we read this, it says the on mouse over attributes works when the mouse pointer moves over the specified element. That's correct. That's basically what we are looking for. And the another one is on mouse out. If we read this, it says the on mouse out attribute works when the mouse pointer moves out of the specified element. How this works, we'll see in a moment. But right now we can see that whatever we are looking for, on mouse over is the perfect attribute of ours to be used in our problem. So we know how to do that, as you've seen that we by the use of these creation of this use state and assigning a state to our variables, and then having another function to update the state of our variables, we can alter whatever components or whatever structure we have on our web application. So you can pause this now and give it a go yourself, trying to achieve that particular thing with the use of on mouse over attribute. All right, so even if you are stuck now, let me give you a hint. The thing that we'll be using in this case is the style property of whatever we've learned in inline styling in CSS. So we know that we can use these curly braces, like in the concept of CSS inline styling, we can simply mention style, and then since we are writing a logic inside it, we append these curly braces, and then inside them we know that whatever property we wanted to update, we have to specifically mention the key and value pairs of this, like this. For example, if I wanted to change the color, then the key will be color and the value will be whatever color I wanted to have for this particular property. So using the concepts of state, and then you further using the concepts of something related to condition based rendering, this particular task you will be able to achieve. So having this hint in mind, again pause this video and try to give it a go yourself. All right, so let's see first what we want from this. So basically the thing that we are looking for is, let's say in here we have an on click, and now we want, since this particular sheet of ours mentions about the HTML attributes, and in this everything is written in pure lowercase, but remember now we are inside a JSX file, and in here whatever convention we are using, whether HTML or CSS, it will automatically get converted to the camel casing. So okay, I think we moved out of this area, so just try to write it here. So instead of writing it in pure lowercase, we'll use these camel casing one, and here you can see it is getting auto suggested on mouse over, and based on this particular event we will create a function. Let's say call this function m over, and let's put the name of this function here, and in order to check whether this function and this event handler of ours is working fine or not, I'm console logging mouse is over. Okay, so opening the console, and every time I hover over this submit, you can see every time I hover over this mouse is over is getting logged onto the console. So that means this particular one is now working just fine. Now the next thing regarding the style, what we needed to do was, we are concerned about the, okay, even if you have some doubts regarding this, what you can do is you can simply head over to the styles.css part, and you can see that since this is a button, the whatever styling we have applied it it is applied on the button part, and the background color initially is mentioned as white, and what we hope to achieve is the color of purple. So initially, if we see the background color, it is mentioned as white, and what we want to do is, based on a particular condition, we want this color to change to purple or to white. Okay, so that means that makes us remember the concept of conditional rendering. And since we are again requiring some sort of variable or some sort of boolean or a flag that will indicate whether a particular thing is to be done or not, so it is a 0-1 stuff. So what we'll try to do is, we'll try to create a variable, let's say is m over, short for is mouse over, and then let's call it set, what should we say, let's say we call it set set condition, or let's say set m over. That will make it much more related to it, and then we'll simply use the use state, and initially we'll say that this condition is false. Okay, great. So what we do now is, initially the is mouse over variable of ours, it is containing false, which means our cursor of ours has not hovered over or is not has not traveled over to the button of ours. So in here, what we can say is, we can check about is mouse over variable of ours. If it is true, display the color of purple, and if it is false, display the color of white. Okay, makes sense? Let me repeat this particular one. We are using the concept of CSS Inline Styling. Inside this, since we are going to write logic, we write these curly braces, and then further inside these curly braces, we knew that whatever property we want to mention, we have to put it in the form of, let me hit save. Yeah, in order to have proper orientation, whatever property we want to mention here, we have to write it in the form of key value pairs. Initially, we wrote the key as background color and the value as white, because the background color of our button was initially white. And then I created a variable is mouse over using our use state method, and set its initial state to false, and this is the function that will be used to update its state at a later moment in time. And then we check by the use of ternary operator that if this particular variable is true, or if this condition is true, which says is mouse over, and since it is false initially, the second part will work and the background color will get assigned to white. Now again, as in the case of on click, we know that we have already set the environment for our on mouse over event, and what we need to do is just head inside this m over function of ours, and by the use of set m over, we can simply update the state of is m over to true. And now you will see, as soon as we drag this cursor of ours onto the button will get colored purple. But the problem right now is that once we move it over, it gets colored, but if we remove it out, it still stays the same. And the reason for that is that when on mouse over event gets triggered, it calls this m over function. It using the set m over updates the state to true and it changes its color, but we haven't mentioned anything that will indicate that okay, now you have seen the cursor coming over the button, but now the cursor has gone. So that means we need another event that will tell our code sandbox that okay, now the cursor is gone and now you have to update the background color of your button to its initial state. And that's the particular case in which on mouse out attribute of ours will come in play, because it states that it will work when the mouse pointer moves out of the specified element. So we don't have to work much regarding the on mouse out attribute, because we have already set the entire environment when we were talking about on mouse over. Let's say we create a function m out in this particular case, and we'll say m out. And in here, what we want is, if the mouse cursor of ours moves out of this particular area, we can simply set our, we can simply, by the use of set m over, reassign false to is m over. Okay, which means that if now I save this, and now I take the and by doing this, if now I take my cursor over to the button, you will be able to see that m over function gets called, this particular one, and the state of is m over will get equal to true. And since it gets equal to true, this particular ternary operator here will make the background color equal to purple. And as soon as I move my cursor out of this particular button, this particular event will get triggered on mouse out. M out function will get called, and it will, using this set m over function, set the state or the value of is m over back to false. Correct? So instead of creating another variable and setting a state to it, and then like reapplying whatever we do and redoing whatever we did, we just used one particular variable, and using it as sort of a flag, we are able to update the color of the background of our button. So this was one way via which we can use such event handlers in React. And if you scroll over through these, even on just the mouse part, you'll be able to see there are so many of them, like on mouse down, up, move, and even on the wheel function. That wheel of the pointer devices roll up or down. You can further use it to update whatever you want, and make sure you have a play around with all these attributes and try to do different stuff with the structure of this particular website of ours. So this was a little introduction to the fact that the onClick is not the only event handler we have in our toolbox. There are many such event handlers out there, like on mouse over and on mouse out. We saw the two of them. They consist of every possible scenario, whether with regards to mouse or keyboard or whatever. So make sure you check out all those of them and try to understand when and where we can apply them. And the basic concept, the underlying concept remains the same. Okay, the use of state, the use of this conditional rendering in this particular scenario, the application and the basic principles regarding all of these event handlers we have, they will remain the same. So I hope you were able to understand it. In the upcoming lessons, we'll be diving deep into these topics on React that makes it much more dynamic. And as I told you, we'll be gearing up our knowledge in this particular React of ours. So that's it from my side for this particular session. I'll see you in the next one.